We had the conclusion of the State of the Nation address with DAMP Anchen Dreyer. Your views of the President's speech. There's been quite a lot of criticism around him not mentioning jobs and how to tackle with the issues of jobs, and I know that is one of the big campaigns that the Democratic Alliance is pushing.
Before I go into the detail of that, I just want to make a general statement. It was such a boring speech. It's really a cure for insomnia.
Right.
And then it lacked vision. There was no energy, there was no vision. It was pedestrian, and it was really, in that sense, even more disappointing than we thought it was possible, because the President has not inspired confidence before, but this was even more at a really low point. It was really even less inspiring than ever before. In terms of the specifics, it's marked more by what he didn't say than what he did say. The big thing is unemployment. That's the biggest problem facing the country right now. We need economic growth. We need economic growth that can create jobs. He didn't mention that at all. We sit with 8.3 million unemployed, mostly youth, mostly black youth. This is very serious. It's a ticking time bomb. He gave no ideas about how we will address that, how we will make the economy grow again. He mentioned very briefly or very vaguely tertiary education and the fund, and he said, the Minister of Finance will later on make more detail available during his speech. But there's very little there as well.
On that, and considering the campaigns that we saw, the Fees Must Fall campaign towards the end of last year and also the beginning of the year, it's still a campaign that young people are pushing. The absence of detail where that is concerned, is that disturbing for you?
Yes, of course it is. It's very, very worrying. There's money available in other funds, but it's not being spent properly. So that must be addressed urgently. When the finance speech comes up later in February, students already have given up hope, and some maybe can't register because they don't have the funds to pay, or they have huge debts that they can't pay. But also basic education, even more important, because that's where it starts. He didn't address that at all. Basic education is in crisis, except in the Western Cape where the DA governs. But in most of the other provinces, there's a very serious crisis, and our young people are being let down. And he said basically nothing about that. He referred to crime briefly. He referred specifically to policemen who have now become more and more the victim of crime. Of course, that is very serious, and it's very sad then when policemen are being targeted specifically. But what about the ordinary residents, ordinary citizens of this country? How is he going to ensure that we become a safer place? That's also very disappointing that he didn't really go into detail. It was a pedestrian speech. It lacked vision, and it was actually no inspiration for the nation at all.
What also cannot be ignored is the drama that took place in the National Assembly today. Firstly, the departure of COPE, and then the departure of the EFF. What is the DA's position when it comes to that? Because there's been talk that in remaining in the National Assembly, the DA continues to legitimize the president, while some are arguing, like the EFF, that he is an illegitimate president because of what took place in the Constitutional Court.
Of course, everybody talks about what happened a few days ago in the Constitutional Court, and I think the president has lost all credibility, and he's lost the trust of his countrymen and countrywomen. That is very serious. But the only place where in a democracy the president and the executive can be held accountable is in Parliament. Parliament is the apex of a democratic system, and we have to use that system, and we have to maintain Parliament, the efficiency and the legitimacy of Parliament. So we want to continue efforts to ensure that Parliament is working, because that's the only way democracy in South Africa can work. So we will use the opportunity to hammer the president and to hold him to account.
Are you critical of the EFF's position? We saw what they did at the State of the Nation address last year, the start of Pay Back the Money. Today we heard Zuma must fall. The DA's views on the tactics of the EFF during the State of the Nation address?
They wasted a lot of time by jumping up, making points of order, that while they actually should make use of the opportunity next week during the debates on the State of the Nation, where they can make all the points that they want to make.